I'm Terrence Coleman. You can call me Terry. I'm 55 years old. I served 18 years of a 30-year sentence for aggravated assault. I walked into prison thinking my street habits would save me. They almost got me killed. Let me tell you what happened. I see young men making the same mistakes right now, and I need to say this before someone else ends up buried because of pride. To understand how I got there, you have to understand where I came from. I was raised in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, in Watson Chapel, a high-crime, working-class neighborhood. You learn to stand your ground. My three brothers and we learned that pride was everything. A challenge unanswered was weakness. By 38, I was a lumberyard laborer, strong, with a GED and a temper that flared like a match. A few violent confrontations, one that went too far, landed me a 30-year sentence. In 2007, I arrived at Cummins Unit, and I carried that Watson Chapel pride with me like a shield, straight into general population. It was my first week in Gen Pop. I was still pumped up, muscles hard from the yard, thinking my size meant something. I was in the chow line. A guy, bigger, older, with ink crawling up his neck, bumped me. Not hard, just a test. Back home, you stare, you puff up, you claim your space. I did just that. I turned, squared my shoulders. Watch it. He just smiled. A cold, empty thing. He looked right through me. He didn't say a word, but everyone saw. I'd marked myself. Loud, proud, stupid. And I had no idea what that mark meant. 3 days later, I was in the yard. A different man approached me, younger, with sharp eyes. He talked fast and low. Said the guy from the line, a man named Graves, ran things. Needed collectors who weren't afraid to lean on debtors. He was offering me a job, protection, status. It felt familiar, like being tapped for a crew back home. I felt a flash of that old pride. They see me. I said I'd think about it. That offer sat with me all day. It felt like a way in, a way to belong. That night in my bunk, I couldn't sleep. Lying there, I thought about my family, my two kids, whose letters I hadn't answered. I didn't know what to say. My three brothers, my ex-wife, all of it reduced to rare letters now. I was risking any chance of that future for a feeling of respect inside. Then I remembered my cellmate, an old-timer named Eli. He'd been quietly watching me all week. In the dark, I finally spoke. My voice sounded strange. Eli, that offer today, good move or bad move? His voice was gravel in the dark. You got 5 habits, son. You keep 'em, you won't survive here. He let that sit for a second. 1, you think every test is a fight. 2, you think a crew is family. 3, you think pride is armor. 4, you think silence is weakness. 5, you think tomorrow's guaranteed. I felt shocked. It was like he'd been reading my mind since I got here. Then he connected it all, and the ice water hit my veins. Graves's collectors, Eli said. They're shock troops, expendable. You get shanked by a debtor, Graves just finds another dumb, proud kid from Pine Bluff. You do Graves's violence, you do Graves's time. Listen, it wasn't about the bump in the line. That was just the audition. The offer was the trap. The protection was the thing that would get me killed or buried in the hole. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every stupid, prideful move I'd made since I got here. When the lights came on, the choice was clear. Take the respect and the guaranteed violence, or try something completely foreign to me, humility. I thought about my kids' faces. I thought about 30 years, 18 more ahead of me. I had to survive, not as the toughest, but as the smartest. I found the young messenger in the yard that morning. My mouth was dry as dust. I looked at him, and I didn't puff up. I kept my voice even, low. "Tell Graves I appreciate the look," I said, "but I'm going to focus on my own time." The guy's eyes narrowed. He was surprised. He just nodded and walked off. No threat, no drama. It was the hardest and most important thing I'd ever done. I'd chosen discernment over defiance. That decision, in that moment, changed the entire course of my 18 years inside. I understand now that prison is a chess game played with human pieces. Reacting with street instinct is how you lose. You have to think 3 moves ahead. My pride was a liability. My temper was a weapon I was handing to my enemy. I learned to read the room, not dominate it. I learned to make my word rare and solid, not loud and constant. It didn't make the time easy, nothing does. But it made me a survivor, not a casualty. But I paid for those early habits. I paid for the crime that got me there. I lost 18 years. My kids grew up without me. My brothers and I. We talk now, but it's not the same. The letters slowed, then mostly stopped. That's the real sentence, the life that happens without you. I regret carrying Watson Chapel into Cummins every single day. But I'm here. I survived. And that means there's a path if you're smart enough to see it. If you're facing time, or you're in any hard place where the old rules don't apply, listen. Unlearn the reflexes of the battlefield. Loyalty is precious. Don't spend it on the first bidder. Value silence. Watch. Think. Be smarter than I was. You still have time to choose a different path. This is Terrence Coleman. Choose wisely. Choosing wisely didn't make me invisible. It just changed the game. I was still in Graves's yard. I just refused to be one of his pieces. So the pressure changed shape. It got quieter, sharper. About a week after I turned down the offer, I was in the shower. The noise was loud, steam everywhere. I felt a presence behind me before I saw him. It was the young messenger. He wasn't there to wash. He stood close, his voice a hiss in the mist. Graves says a man who stands alone gets lonely. Says a man who stands alone can fall and nobody hears. He didn't touch me. He didn't have to. The threat was in the words, in the empty space around us. My old habit screamed. Turn around, shove him, show him you're not afraid. That was the street rule. Answer force with force. Answer a threat with a bigger threat. But Eli's words were louder. Thinking every test is a fight. This was a test, a different kind. I kept rinsing the soap off my face, slow, deliberate. I didn't turn. I stared at the cracked tile in front of me and I said, just loud enough for him to hear over the water, "I hear just fine." Then I shut off the water, picked up my towel, and walked out. I left him standing there. My heart was pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. But I walked. I didn't look back. That was the second lesson. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the only move you have that doesn't end with you in seg or in the infirmary. I didn't win anything that day. I just didn't lose. The isolation was the real punishment. I wasn't in Graves's crew, so I wasn't protected. and I'd shown I wasn't an easy mark for a fight, so the wolves circled differently. In the chow hall, I'd sit down and the seats around me would stay empty. In the yard, conversations would stop when I walked near. It was a cold kind of violence, and wore on you. That's when the third habit tried to kill me, thinking pride is armor. I got a letter, one of the rare ones from my oldest brother, Marcus. It was short, just news. My youngest daughter, she was 10 then, had won some award at school, a spelling bee. He'd gone, said she looked proud. He'd taken a picture but couldn't send it. I read that letter in my cell, and I felt this rage boil up in me. Not at him, at everything. At the empty seats in the chow hall, at the smug face of the messenger, at the cold smile of Graves that first day, at myself. This prideful heat filled my chest. I don't deserve this. I'm a man. I should be there. I should make them respect me. I crumpled the letter. I stood up. I was going to walk out to the yard, find the biggest, loudest guy I could, and start something. Just to feel like I was still Terrence Coleman from Watson Chapel. To feel my fists connect with something real. Eli was watching. He always was. He didn't say a word. He just looked at the crumpled letter in my hand, then at my face. He sighed, a tired, deep sound. You want to go trade your daughter's spelling bee for 6 months in the hole? Or a shiv in your kidney? 'Cause that's what you're buying right now. That pride you're holding, it's the price. They're waiting for you to spend it. I froze. He made it so plain. My pride wasn't armor. It was the target. It was the thing they were using to get me to do what they wanted. If I walked out that door angry, I was playing their game. I'd be giving them exactly what they needed, a reason to bury me. I sat back down on my bunk. The fight went out of me, replaced by a cold, sick feeling. I smoothed out my brother's letter. I read about my daughter again. That's when I realized the real battle wasn't out in the yard. It was right here, in my own head, every single day. So I started a new routine. I got into the law library. I used my GED brain to start reading cases, learning the rules. I didn't make friends, but I learned to give a quiet nod to a few older guys who were just doing their own time. I worked out, but alone, not with any crew. I answered letters, told my kids about the books I was reading. It was boring. It was lonely. It was the hardest work I'd ever done. And then, maybe 2 months in, the test came again. A different kind. I was in the law library, and a man named Carter sat down across from me. He was doing a long bit for white-collar stuff, kept to himself. He slid a legal pad toward me. On it, he'd written a question about a statute. He needed help understanding it. He'd heard I was reading up. This was a choice, too. Helping someone, making a connection. But not a crew. A different kind of currency. I looked at his question. I knew the answer. I could help. But helping meant association. I looked at him. He looked tired, not dangerous. I thought about Eli's second habit. Thinking a crew is family. This wasn't a crew. This was just a man asking for help with words. So I took the pencil. I wrote the explanation below his question. I slid the pad back. He read it, nodded once, a real nod of thanks, and left. No names exchanged, no favors asked, just a transaction of knowledge. That was the first thread, a quiet, thin thread of something that wasn't violence or fear. It felt human. But Graves wasn't done. The final test, The one that showed me what I'd really chosen came in the laundry. But Graves wasn't done. The final test, the one that showed me what I'd really chosen, came in the laundry. It was a Tuesday. The air was thick with bleach and damp heat. I was folding my state-issued towels, minding my own business, when I saw him. The man from the chow line, Graves. He was just standing by the big industrial dryer watching me. He wasn't folding. He wasn't washing. He was just there, and he was alone. My whole body went tight. This was it. No messenger, no underling. The man himself. My old habit screamed at me again. Don't look away. That's weakness. Stand your ground. I kept folding the towel in my hands, slow, trying to keep my breathing even. I didn't stare, but I didn't drop my eyes either. I just worked. Then he moved. He walked right toward me. Not fast, a slow, casual stroll. He stopped about 3 feet away, close enough to talk low, close enough to strike. I could smell the cheap soap on him. I could see the details in the ink on his neck, a faded spider web. He didn't smile this time. His face was blank, empty. Coleman, he said. Just my name. A statement. Yeah, I said. My voice didn't crack, I'll give myself that. Heard you're a smart guy now. Law books, quiet time. He tilted his head just a little. That's a different kind of muscle. I respect that. He said he respected it, but his eyes were flat, dead. This wasn't respect. This was a reassessment. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Eli's rule. Thinking silence is weakness. No, right now, silence was the only tool I had. A man with discipline is useful, Graves continued, his voice like oil. Could use a man who thinks before he acts. A planner. The offer's different now. You wouldn't be on the floor. You'd be in the back, managing things. And there it was, the real trap. The first offer was for the dumb, proud fighter I was. This offer was for the man I was trying to become. It was more dangerous because it was smarter. It saw me. It was a compliment to my growth, and it was a weapon. If I said yes, I'd be using my new skills for his old violence. I'd be owned, just in a nicer cage. I thought of my daughter's spelling bee. I thought of the quiet nod from Carter in the law library. I thought of 18 more years of this, of being a smarter kind of slave. I looked right at him. I appreciate that too, I said. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could see it through my shirt. But my answer's the same. I'm focused on my own time. For a second, nothing moved. His expression didn't change, but the air in that hot room got colder. I saw it then, in his eyes. Not anger, annoyance. Like I was a fly that kept buzzing away from the swatter. An inconvenience. And an inconvenience that can't be easily provoked is a problem. He gave the smallest nod. Your time, he repeated. Then he turned and walked out of the laundry room. I stood there, my hands clenched around the folded towel. I'd done it. I'd stood my ground without throwing a punch. I'd used my words. I felt a crazy, shaky sense of victory. For about 10 seconds. Then the cost hit me. It wasn't a shiv in the shower. It was slower, deeper. The isolation became absolute. The cold violence turned surgical. My job in the laundry, gone the next day. Reassigned to cleaning the showers, the worst detail, always wet, always reeking. My request for a different GED book from the library? Lost. The few cautious nods I'd gotten from other loaners? Those men suddenly found reasons to look the other way. I was in a bubble of quiet punishment. I wasn't being broken. I was being erased. The worst part was the letter, or really the lack of one. I'd been writing to my kids, telling them about the books I was reading, asking about school. I'd finally found some words. I mailed a letter to my daughter about how proud I was of her spelling bee. I waited for a reply. It never came. Weeks passed. Then a letter came from my brother Marcus. It wasn't long. He said my ex-wife had asked him to tell me to stop writing the kids. She said it was confusing them. She said they needed to move on. She was getting married. A good guy. He'd be adopting them. I read those words in my cell and the floor fell out from under me. Eli was there, but he didn't say anything. He just let me sit with it. That was the breaking point, the moment I realized the full price. I had saved my body. I had avoided the shiv, the hole, the extended time. But I had lost them anyway. By the time I'd gotten smart, it was already too late for that part of my life. My pride had cost me the first years. My choice to go alone had cost me the last thread of connection. I was safe in a cage and utterly alone in the world. I didn't cry. I was past that. I just felt hollow, empty, like all the fight had been for nothing. I traded one kind of survival for another, and both of them left me with nothing. I looked at Eli in the dim light. What was the point? I asked him. My voice was flat. I did it right. I listened. I'm still here, and they're gone. So what was the point of any of it? Eli was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "The point ain't to keep everything, son. The point is to keep you. You think you lost him because you said no to Graves? You lost him the day you threw that punch back in Pine Bluff. You lost him the day you got sentenced. All you're doing now is cleaning up the wreck. You can't get back what the crash destroyed. You can only decide what kind of man walks away from it." He let that sink in. You walked away from Graves. That means you get to walk away from here one day. As you. Not as his. Not as some monster made worse in here. Just as you. A man who made a terrible mistake and learned a terrible lesson. That's the point. It don't feel like winning. It ain't winning. It's just surviving. And sometimes, surviving is all you get. That was the truth. It broke me, not in a dramatic way, in a final way. The last of my Watson Chapel pride, the last bit of me that thought I could have it all, just dissolved. I accepted it. I was a ghost in here. My family were ghosts out there. My job was to serve my time as a ghost and hope that when I was finally free, there might be enough left of me to build something new from the dust. I stopped waiting for letters. I did my shower detail. I read my books. I became so quiet, so still, that even Graves' system forgot about me. I wasn't a threat. I wasn't an asset. I was just part of the furniture. And in that awful, painful stillness, I finally started to understand what survival really meant. It wasn't about winning. It was about enduring. And the only way to endure was to let go of everything you thought you needed to be and just be what you were. A man doing time. And that's what I did. I became part of the furniture. The years passed. Not quickly. Never quickly. but they passed. I served my full 18, walked out in 2025. No fanfare, no family waiting at the gate. Just me, a duffel bag, and a bus ticket back to Pine Bluff. Here's what I learned sitting in that empty cell, walking out into that empty parking lot. Survival isn't about winning. It's about enduring with your mind intact. I walked in thinking the rules from Watson Chapel, answer every challenge, claim your space, find your crew, were universal. They're not. They're street rules. And prison isn't the street. It's a different ecosystem. A predator doesn't change its stripes when you put it in a new jungle. It just gets eaten by something that understands the new terrain better. I was that predator. Graves, Eli, they were part of the terrain. My mistake was thinking the bump in the chow line was about respect. It wasn't. It was a scan, like a predator testing for weakness, for reaction speed. My proud, loud, "Watch it," was the equivalent of flashing a bright color in the wild. It said, "Here I am. I react. I can be baited." The offer to be a collector? That was the trap designed for exactly that kind of animal. Eli saw it because he'd seen it 100 times. He gave me the only tool that works in there: foresight. The ability to see 3 moves ahead. To understand that sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to play their game. So my advice, if you're facing time, or if you're in any situation where the old rules will get you killed, is this. You have to do an inventory, right now. You have to look at your own habits. First, ask yourself, do you think every test is a fight? Because in there, most tests aren't invitations to battle. They're invitations to a war you can't win. Passing the test sometimes means not throwing the punch. It means absorbing the insult, walking away from the provocation, and living to see another day. Second, do you think a crew is family? That's the most dangerous fantasy. A crew inside is a business arrangement. You are an asset. And when an asset becomes a liability, it gets discarded. The loyalty flows one way, up. Don't trade your autonomy for the illusion of protection. The protection is the cage. Third, do you think pride is armor? It's not. It's the spot they aim for. It's your most vulnerable place. My pride made me stand out in the chow line. It made me feel seen by Graves's offer. Real strength in there is quiet. It's in the discipline to fold a towel when a powerful man is threatening you. It's in the humility to clean showers without complaining. Fourth, do you think silence is weakness? It's your greatest weapon. My most powerful moments were when I didn't speak. When I said, "I hear just fine," in the shower and walked away. When I just looked at Graves and repeated my simple answer. Words are currency. Spend them wisely. Rarely. Fifth, and this is the big one. Do you think tomorrow's guaranteed? It's not. Not out here, and definitely not in there. Every choice you make borrows from or invests in your future. Saying yes to Graves was borrowing against a future I'd never see. Saying no was an investment in a tomorrow where I might walk out as myself, not as his. I lost a lot. My kids are grown. They have a different last name now. My brothers, we talk sometimes. It's cordial, distant. The letters stopped long ago. That life, the one I had before 2007, is gone. I regret that every day. I regret the punch that started it all. I regret carrying my neighborhood into that prison like a banner, but I am here. I survived. Not as a monster, not as a puppet, but as a man who learned a brutal lesson. And that means it's possible. You can navigate that place and come out with your soul still your own. But you have to be smarter than your instincts. You have to be the chess player, not the piece. This channel is full of stories like mine. Hard lessons learned too late. If what I've said makes sense to you, if you see yourself or someone you care about in these mistakes, hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. There are more stories here that might give you the foresight I didn't have. Leave a comment down below. Tell me, which of those 5 habits do you think would be the hardest for you to break? Is it the pride? The need to answer every challenge? I read them. If this story hit home, hit the like button. It lets me know this was worth saying. Share it. Share it with a young man who's headed down a bad road. Share it with someone who's scared and facing time. It might give them the one piece of advice that changes everything. And if you've lived a life that taught you something, it doesn't have to be about prison. It can be about anything. You might have a story that could help someone else. There's a form in the description to submit it. Your lesson, earned the hard way, could be the light for someone else in a dark place. A book that helped me make sense of the time after, of rebuilding, is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He found purpose in a place 1,000 times worse than Cummins. It's in the description. It helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Don't be the man I was. Be the man I had to become. Choose your moves. Don't let your habits choose them for you. Your life, your freedom, your soul, they're worth more than a moment of pride. Protect them. This is Terrence Coleman. Choose wisely.